Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Alligator podcast, where we talk all things at the University of Florida, Gainesville, and beyond. I'm your host, Elliot Tritto, and here's the news. In this episode, I interviewed Dr. Carlee Simon, Alachua County Public Schools Superintendent. We discussed many topics, including the Alachua County Public Schools mask mandate. This podcast was recorded on Thursday, August 26th at 9:40 a.m. All right. Well, Dr. Simon, I want to thank you so much for joining the Alligator podcast. I was just wondering, for my first question, is if you could start off by telling our viewers your position and what that position entails.
Okay, so I'm the superintendent of Alachua County Public Schools. We have 67 counties in the state of Florida, and our counties also serve as the school district size. So I am one of the superintendents of a county-sized school district, and my responsibilities are actually quite a bit as far as, not only do we educate children, but we feed children through our food and nutrition. We transport children to and from schools, and we have facilities that we maintain, and our budget is about $500 million a year.
Wow. Okay. And and I was just curious. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was regarding the mask mandates in Alachua County Public Schools, and I wanted to ask who proposed the vote on the mask mandate for the Alachua County School Board.
So it began on a Monday. Our meetings usually are on Tuesdays, our regular board meetings. And so on Monday, I had proposed to do it for all of my employees, any visitors on campus, and any vendors that we work with. And this came about because we had 2 employees that weekend that passed away based on COVID. And we also were having positivity rates of staff members that was really impacting the work that we were doing. We had to shut down some projects because of how many people were positive and the amount of quarantines. The next day, it was a board agenda to discuss the reopening plan of how we were going to enter into this year with COVID. And we had experts who came and shared their knowledge and experience and the data associated with our hospitals and our public health system here in the county. And the board voted at that point unanimously to have a mask mandate for students. And they started with 2 weeks, but we have since met again, and they added an additional 8 weeks. So from the beginning of school, there's 10 weeks of the mask mandate, and then we will revisit the data again and determine if we can go optional.
Okay. And my next question is, in your interview with Morning Joe, you stated that Governor Ron DeSantis, because he's been quoted as wanting to withhold funds for school districts that approve of mask mandates, and you stated that they can't take away the school district funds. So I was wondering if you can expand upon that.
So what he was wanting to do was actually cut the salary of the superintendent and the board members. And so the governor doesn't pay the superintendent or the board members. Actually, we manage all payroll in our district. So my staff are the ones who would distribute salaries. So he really doesn't have the ability to not pay me or not pay my board members. He really needed to have the funding that would come to the district that would be an equivalent to their salaries. He is now wanting to withdraw that. And he no longer is including me. He's actually just including the board members at this point.
Okay.
And that's, they were taking 1/12 of their annual salary. So it's a little over $13,000 he's wanting to deduct every month. And he's asking that we don't move any funding to continue to pay them in that way. Now, we do have the benefit of the United States Department of Education has offered to cover the difference. And we also have the Alachua County Board of Commissioners. They have offered to cover the difference to make sure that we're held harmless and our board members can continue to receive their funding.
Interesting. Okay, good to know. And You actually answered my next question. So I'm going to skip to the next one. So as of today, August 26, 2021 at 9:46 a.m., I looked at the Alachua County Public School COVID-19 dashboard that documented that 1,281 students and 38 staff members are in quarantine due to being exposed to COVID-19. My question is that could you provide a what the COVID protocol is like for a student or staff member that have been exposed to COVID-19?
So we have a COVID, our reopening plan that has all of the protocols and all the details. And there's a nice little kind of logic map that will kind of outline the direction of where you go based on how a person is exposed, whether they're vaccinated, what part of a quarantine needs to be done, whether they test positive or not. But there's quite a few steps, but what we are doing with all of that is we are contact tracing. So if we have an individual who's been exposed and they fall into the exposure category, then we find out if they've been vaccinated, and that then would determine the next steps of how we manage it. What we're trying to do, which has been a huge challenge, is with our children, we want them in school. So we need them quarantined in the event they might be positive, but we also would like them to return back to school as quickly as possible. And so we are doing day 5 testing, and based on the results of a rapid test, they would be able to come back to school. We're doing PCR tests as well to kind of be an additional reliability testing mechanism, but we're using the rapid test to determine on day 5 if they can come back, because otherwise they'd have to be out for 8 days. And that's 3 more days of lost instruction that we just do not want to have.
Gotcha. Okay. And I wanted to, it's a little follow-up question. Based on the curriculum back when everyone got back to school, I'm just curious, was there any added curriculum, or was there any added, not added curriculum, sorry, was there any added subject material on why there needs to be why masks need to be worn, why people are getting vaccinated? Is there anything like that happening, or is it just the same as before?
I mean, we don't have an added curriculum, like as a part of our instructional content that we would deliver to students in like something where we assess and we, progress monitor and all that. What we do is we make sure, just like in many things in education, is that, these are the protocols and procedures of how to go through your school day. These are the expectations. And we talk about, how you can keep each other safe. We also have all of our children, washing their hands before they eat, washing their hands when they come out of the bathroom, those types of things. So I'd say it probably fits more into these are healthy practices to keep a healthy community.
Okay. And I read your opinion piece on the Washington Post, and you mentioned about the Hope Scholarship, and I was just curious about the response to it, and if you'd explain it to our viewers.
Okay, so the Hope Scholarship is one of the options that the state presented to all of the superintendents as an option for parents who feel that the school district isn't meeting their needs. The Hope Scholarship is a voucher program, which essentially means it's a funding pass, so you can take your funding to another school or another school district to have your education. In the Hope Scholarship, it's focusing on bullying harassment. And so the governor has assigned, if a school district in our situation is requiring masks, then a family could feel that they are being harassed, and they could use the Hope Scholarship to attend another school. It serves private schools. There's only certain private schools that actually accept Hope Scholarships. And I believe in the county, we have 14 that would accept it, but we don't have 14 schools that have an optional mask mandate. So most of those schools actually are required masks for everybody, universal as well. And so there's not as many options. Now that family could go to one of our surrounding school districts, because at this point, I believe every one of our surrounding school districts is optional.
And to follow up on that, has there been like an estimated number of how many families that have applied for this?
So I have over 28,000 students, and I'm not sure today the exact number, but I believe I'd be under 15. Oh, I have 11. Somebody just showed me that. So yes, under 15.
Cool. And my next question is was about incentives. I was curious if you can tell us about the incentives available for the can you tell us about the vaccination incentives available for the staff at Alachua County Public Schools?
So at Alachua County, what we are offering to every one of our staff members who's been vaccinated in the past or gets vaccinated now, we will give $100 for their contribution to our organization. We also are having where if they were vaccinated and if they get COVID again, the Delta variant, then what we will do is we will provide their sick leave while they are out ill, and we will cover that. If you are not vaccinated, you will need to use your own sick leave. And so it is a huge benefit for people, especially for teachers, because sometimes accumulating sick leave can be a big challenge. One thing I did hear yesterday when I met with the county manager is that I know that the county is also offering an incentive program for anybody who gets the vaccine. Shot 1 is $25, shot 2 is $25. So if you're fully vaccinated, the county will pay you $50 in gift cards.
And I was curious, do you know anyone that has gotten the vaccine because of the incentives?
Yes, I do. I actually have staff that I know have done that. And I know also the sick leave component has been something to motivate individuals. It's been a value added, but I will say I'm still needing more of my staff to get vaccinated. And so we're looking at other options and other solutions.
Okay. And I'm looking at your the Washington Post opinion piece, and I'm gonna quote something that you stated that you've been called a monster, child abuser, communist, fascist, idiot, and other names not fit to print. And you've also mentioned that you've been threatened with legal action, protest, militia enforcement, and worse. So my question that is, what's it like to receive that kind of those threats from that?
Well, I mean, no one wants to be threatened. No one likes to be called names. I think that my position, one, I have a very public position. And I think we have a societal component right now where, trolling on the internet is a thing. It's been occurring. I think it would be unrealistic for me to assume that somehow I would be able to navigate these waters of this position and not have this happen. It has picked up. The threats are concerning. We are increasing our security components at the district, as well as, I'm more thoughtful about it when I'm just on my own. I think we've reached a place right now where it's unhealthy that we have people who believe that they can say and threaten this level of darkness and violence and all of that, because I don't think that this is a good sign of a healthy society right now.
And my last question for you today is, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned? I'm sorry. What's the biggest what's something different that you've noticed being a superintendent in a pandemic that you've never seen in your history as an educator?
So I was an educator when 9/11 occurred, and I taught my class when, planes were crashing into buildings. And I was very young at the time. I was, I must have been like 24, 25. And, I had students in my classroom and everybody was fearful, and we really had to come together and talk about things. And so I saw education through a lens when we were in a crisis before in the past. As a superintendent, this pandemic is crisis-like in that 9/11 type of way, except for it's very lengthy. 9/11 was, it was a moment, and then everybody kind of recovered from the moment, where the pandemic is this, it's long and it's tiresome and it's wearing on people, but we're not coming together like we did after 9/11. We are actually, if anything, much more divided and polarized, and it's disappointing to see where that is. But what I do appreciate, and I see this, is that I think we're starting to value things in different ways. I think education has been neglected for a very long time. Probably the last 3 decades, it's just slowly but surely become more and more eroded. And I think we're right now witnessing how important education is to maintain our healthy society, or maintain a society. I do have concerns about our health at the moment, but we're now able to talk about the importance of education. And I think people are more receptive because they really have seen how education not functioning the way it had been, even in the place where it was being eroded so much, people depended on it. And we still are very much dependent on it. And so what I'm hoping out of all of this is that we really can have some meaningful discussions about education and how we reform it and what we want out of it, and why it's so important and valuable. And that includes our educators, our staff members, and our students. And I think we need to really reinvest into the things that are important in our lives. And education, I think, is one of them.
Okay. That is all I have for today. I just want to take the time and say thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk with us today. Yeah, thank you so much, and stay safe.
Well, thank you. You too. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, that's all for today. Be sure to follow us on your favorite listening and viewing platform, as well as checking out new episodes Mondays and Fridays. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day.